analytics, because we are interested in soil fertility and soil conservation. We are looking at food nutrient profiling and also plant micropropagation as an alternative for growing. The fourth objective, we want to develop a farmer-led and climate monitoring system for informed food production. We want to work with the farmers for them to be part of us and be the scientists, collect the data, analyze the data, so that they get more informed about their production. And our biggest methodology that we want to use is a citizen science approach blended with ICT. We will set up a citizen science network through stakeholder engagement, train these farmers and induct them to collect data, both digitally using a mobile phone and also customized notebooks. This is what they will do at their fields after they have been trained. They will observe crop productivity issues. They will record using the app that we shall train them with. They will report these via mobile network to the university, and the university will validate this data. But together, the MUST research team, the farmers and agricultural extension at parish level and sub-county level will work together to participatorily agree on protocols. We shall agree on protocols as seen, on questions to answer. We shall collect data together. We shall exchange this data and understand it together. And together with that, we'll have the team and the students doing various field surveys, field and laboratory-based experiments, and all the qualitative data collection tools to determine the influence of climate variability on crop cultivation and adoption, and also determine the land management practices for soil conservation. We shall also install weather stations to generate climatic data and be able to develop climate e-kiosks for agrometeorological data that is accessible to whoever needs it, mostly the farmers and the agricultural extension. And we think that this multi-scientist stakeholder platform will map climatic hazards affecting crop production. We'll be able to come up with agro-based environmental risk maps to inform policy at all levels. We shall be able to valorize the farmers to be able to keep records and monitor the agricultural inputs and outputs for informed production. We shall tease out climatic smart practices for adoption for the different agroecological zones, and also digitize agricultural productivity challenges by the farmers for extension service uptake so that it's faster and more efficient. We know Equatorial Africa has been documented to face these highest challenges, and in this region, it's depicted by the southwestern region. We choose 3 districts that are hazard prone, in which we shall do these experiments. We have Rwanda, prone to landslides, Rubirizi, with very fertile sedimentary soils that are porous and suffer a lot of erosion, and also Isinyiro district, because it has been documented to be prone to a lot of droughts. This is going to be carried out by a very big team, but very energetic team, led by myself and Professor Matthew Carvin. For those who don't know Professor Matthew Carvin, he's with us here. Stand up for recognition. We have a team, a Flemish team from KU Leuven University and Center for Expertise in Agrobiotechnology at Vives University College. Locally, we have a team from Naro, Dr. Harid Chironda, Dr. Muzira are here with us. We have a partner from agricultural meteorology from the Uganda National Meteorological Association, Dr. Moses Ojara. Unfortunately, he was coming from Nairobi and wouldn't be here in time. And we also have Mountains of the Moon University, represented here by John Sekajigo, stand up for recognition. And then the MAST team, Sister Jane, stand up for recognition, Dr. Raphael, Dr. Justin, as shown there. And lastly, we have expected outcomes of capacity building, our PhD students who are here with us, and those are their titles. And those are the other outcomes: citizen-based science and multi-stakeholder platform, empowered climates, smart small-scale farmer communities. You can read them there. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I suggest we move on to the second project, the first project. I hope the slides are ready now. Can we get the slides for project 1, please? Or is it there or there? Yeah, okay. Yeah. May I ask you to keep it, because we're a bit behind time, to keep it short.
Thank you so much. Prof. Grace has been advantaged. And now we have to manage the time. So we are presenting together with my colleague, Professor Stefan Smith. We are introducing Project 1, which focuses on improved conservation practices for the environment and natural resources. As they struggle with the slides, the scenario here is that when you look at what is happening today on our environment, you realize that in the next 15 years, we'll have a big challenge if the practices are not improved. We are looking at southwestern Uganda, and we are focusing on 5 national parks for the 10 years. But for the first 5 years, at Lake Mburo and Unic that so in the next rivers in Lake Mburo up to Victoria Basin, and then a river Hezamienda, which is found in Kisoro and Rwanda district, from Bunyonyi through Bwindi Impenetrable National Park at the boundary up to Lake Mutanda and DRC. So these are the 2 rivers of our interest, and we have the indigenous people that we are working with. Initially, our target was to look at the Batwa and the Bahima in southwestern Uganda, but the other 5 years we'll look at the Basongora and the other indigenous tribes in the protected areas of Semliki, Rwenzori, and Queen Elizabeth. And the other rivers for the 5 years, phase 2 will be River Nyamugasani, River Nyamwamba, the other side of Kasese. So for this particular project in phase 1 of 5 years, we are mostly focusing on 3 main objectives. The first objective focuses on integration of governance principles into protected area conservation. And we have focused on 2 main aspects of that, because there are 11 good governance principles that the International Union for Conservation of Nature has articulated, but we couldn't look at all of them. So we are focusing on only 2, and one is the issue of mitigating the negative effects of conservation, which is human-wildlife conflict, which has been a very big thorn in the stakeholders' flesh. So we are looking at setting up a citizen science network to provide timely information to Uganda Wildlife Authority on incidences of human-wildlife conflict, and that will be led by geo-observers, where local communities are able to participate in data collection, and they can manage this data and participate in looking at even solutions to address this challenge. So we will set up a citizen science network with geo-observers equipped with mobile phones. They will have ODK kit, which will be installed, and they will be reporting on the incidences that have happened and expecting responses from UA. Then we're also building the capacity as part of participation as a principle, capacity of conservation organizations that are working with Uganda Wildlife Authority. Because oftentimes you find implementation of different projects is fragmented. Different organizations are doing similar things. When you go to Windi, you realize you have very many organizations, about 38 organizations working with the Batwa. Some are to save the Batwa, some are to redeem the Batwa, some are to rescue the Batwa, and all these are the signposts that will meet and welcome you when you go to Homa and the southern sector. So we are looking at how the capacity of these can be improved. But they have also been giving different projects that at the end become similar. So the tangible outputs and results are very insignificant. And I will use a case of a goat called Mushere, which was appearing in the photos of many conservation organizations, having given it out. I was doing an evaluation. I found Mushere, a goat Mushere is a brown goat, and it had one horn. So every photo of, let's say, Bwindi Mugahenga Conservation Trust, there is Mushere. When you go to Uganda Wildlife Authority Revenue Sharing Project, there is Mushere. The other organization was International Gorilla Conservation Program. There was Mushere in the report. That means Mushere has become a prostitute goat. And if there's a network of coordination, and these organizations have a platform of talking about their activities, and they have the capacity to implement conservation interventions, it will create more tangible results. The second objective looks at restoration, contributing to restoration of the river system. We are looking at River Rizi, River Hezamienda for the first 5 years. We know the efforts are there by government and other agencies like NEMA, but we want, first of all, understand the socio-ecological drivers of river system degradation. We map with GIS the areas that are more degraded, and that will inform restoration efforts, which will include, for example, planting riparian vegetation, which the communities can live with as alternative livelihoods. Number 3 is looking at integration of indigenous knowledge. We know communities neighboring protected areas and major resources have strong knowledge that has not been utilized. So we are using a cultural values approach to establish what we call the Bwindi Batwa forest experience with the indigenous Batwa, using their culture to connect with nature but earn a livelihood. So we will be operationalizing this Batwa forest experience, and we also work on another cultural center called Acha, Ankole Cow Conservation Association. They established a cultural center at Lake Mburo, but that center has not been operational. So we want to see how the culture of Banyankole can be used to conserve nature, but also generate alternative livelihood. So we have many efforts towards that. As part of the tangible outputs, we are looking at equipping a GIS lab at MAST as part of capacity for different conservation organizations to have timely information about these challenges that I've talked about. We will train 4 PhDs and 2 masters, but in the first 5 years, we are focusing on 2 PhDs. We will also look at 2 alternative livelihoods, as I mentioned, which are going to benefit communities, and will create a buffer to the different poaching incidences that have always happened. I will introduce the team here. We have Uganda Wildlife Authority representatives who are here that we are going to be working with. Mr. Kule Arthur and Mr. Katana are already with us. And NEMA is represented by Mr. Jeconius Musingwiri, who is also present. Thank you so much, and we apologize that our slides could not show, but we had sent to the team. I don't know what happened, but at least you get to know what the project is about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very clear and very, yeah. Okay. Now we move on to the last, before. May I ask you to keep it short, please, because we
yeah, we'll make sure that we keep it very brief. The slides are. So this is project 4, and well, my name is Joseph, and Professor Christine is the corresponding team leader from the Flemish side. So project 4, the title is Improved Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights of Women, Children and Adolescents. This I'll skip for purposes of time. In terms of introduction, improving sexual and reproductive health of the most at-risk populations is a fundamental demographic issue in southwestern Uganda communities. We also recognize that inefficient sexual and reproductive healthcare systems exist, and they affect the MAPs. Unequal gender relations, especially at household level, negatively influence so many facets of healthcare, including sexual gender-based violence. It has also been reported in literature that about 60% and the reproductive health interventions miss out on the social and behavioral approaches to addressing. There are our 3 objectives under Project 4. 1, broadly to mainstream gender in reproductive healthcare promotion for MAPs, and then to optimize sexual reproductive healthcare services and rights for adolescents. And then lastly, to strengthen quality improvement initiatives to optimize care and prevent complications in the mothers, the newborns, and the children. Those are expected outcomes in line with the objectives, and each of these objectives has got scholarly output, got students attached and trying to answer questions in each of these specific objectives. Project 4, who have already been recruited, and we have provisional admissions. That's Brenda and Catherine, wherever they are, just wave. Yes, they are making significant progress. We are developing a micro-research protocol on adolescent pregnancies and also many other things. So in the first 5 years, our plan is to have 4 PhDs. And in the first year, we are recruiting 3 PhD students. And we see how they progress on with their work. Thank you. This is a list of the project team members. Those from MAST, I can see quite a number of them here. Dr. Grace, Ntaro Moses, Imelda, Karoma, Professor Kabachenga. Thank you for being part of this life-changing project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have, I think, 5 or 10 minutes time for Q&A, if I understand correctly. So, is there anybody who has a question for one of the project leaders? Just raise your hand and then I'll come with the microphone. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. I am Dr. Sevutinde Peter, and the work that I do on a daily is to provide health care. I'll start with Joseph. Your project is very brief and extremely brief, but there is one glaring thing that the right thing is not very clear. You have clearly drawn a map for the academia, capacity building, for projects, for PhDs and blah, 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 blah. My ask is that come off clearly with what you are going to do with the rights. In our service provision, the right thing has come up over and over again. School, I don't know whether now that I've left many years ago, you have developed a curriculum that addresses the right things and leadership and governance. But when I was in medical school, it was not there. And therefore, the products that we get out there on the market do not clearly understand this thing called rights in as far as service delivery is concerned. Two, they still have a gray area when it comes to leadership and governance. And those are key pillars when it comes to service delivery as of now. I think those things, I request that they come up clear, and that will help us at the end of the day, and the time has come and gone, sustainability. Project 2, Dr. Kagor. It is very good, and now that the science is coming up, we are now in science even when it comes to production. And so as a head of a department where I work, there's that interconnectivity between the departments. I head the Department of Health, but we also work with production. We work with many other departments. Now, we are talking about system strengthening. Professor, you remained very silent about the systems that already exist. We are talking about the community development officers. We are talking about the agricultural extension workers. They are there. At some point, the president asked us, what do they do? And how do we use science to improve what they do at the community level? I request again, because I don't have what it takes to question professors, but I ask that these systems that already exist be strengthened with a bigger lens of sustainability even after the project. So that now science becomes a household thing in our communities, and the 3 districts that we have chosen, I hope they are representative enough, because this is what we need as a country and in all the districts. I thank you.
Maybe we can take all the questions at the same time. Are there other questions? Yeah.
Thanks very much. I will start with project 2, which is looking at climate change adaptation and so agricultural production. The objectives are clear, because when we are talking of climate change, whether we want or not, climate change is going to stay with us, and it is real. So I'm happy that this animal called climate change is going to come on board and more research on it. But I would request the project designer, especially when we are talking about poor agricultural practices. The common phenomenon we are challenged with today is an judicious use of agrochemicals. The chemicals we are applying pest control, for weed control. They have disintegrated the soil structure of our soils, and now they have almost hindered productivity. So I would love, in that practices, the judicial use of agrochemical to be also looked into, and it is making the small acreage of land you were talking non-productive, because they normally apply these chemicals in the outlets, both in town, in rural area, and what the community members are fond of is to carry the knapsack sprayer, mix the chemical in any way, and at the end of the day, the results are not carried what is expected. On project at least the project is going to relieve me pressure for districts. Because wherever they would hear success stories in the Greece catchment, we focused more on upper and midstream. So when I hear that you are going to do interventions downstream of River Greece, I appreciate. And another thing which I'm appreciating is to see that we scientists, we are seeing that there is a need of integration of indigenous knowledge. The people we see around the ecosystems, we assume that they are not a custodian of knowledge. In fact, they know better than we are. And when we are to do interventions and we don't lower ourselves to their food, we are doomed. So the indigenous knowledge is very critical to be integrated in environmental and natural resource management. And already for people who are going to do that downstream of River Greece, there are so many scenarios we have already done upstream and midstream. So the office is open for sharing and fine-tuning the objectives and scenarios that can be utilized downstream for the sustainability of our ecosystem. I beg to stop there.
Thank you very much. I think we already have a lot of questions to address, so I come forward. I don't know who of the team leaders wants to start. Questions? Yeah.
Yes. Very briefly, Dr. Sebutinde, you did mention sexual reproductive health rights. So what Project 4 things like access, utilization, by the Ministry of Health was listed as one of the prime that's how we did suggest that you are health are able to come and attend, and we'll definitely love to have you on board, discuss the implementation and operationalization issues regarding Project 4. Yeah.
Thank you. For the questions on Project 2, I will begin with the one on systems. There was a question about systems, whether we have involved everybody, especially at district level. Yes, we have. We are already going through stakeholder engagement, and I have a witness here, Mr. Karugaba, the district production officer from Isinjiro. You could stand up for recognition, please. We have involved everybody at production level, right from fisheries to agroforestry to water resources, because you can't talk about soil erosion and you're not talking about water. So we have involved everybody to answer the question. But of course, logistical implications also come in. You cannot valorize all the systems, but we are seeing the biggest output out of here to be the agricultural extension, although everybody is going to be involved in this. And the second question was about agrochemicals. True. One of our major issues is land management and land management practices. The agrochemicals are part of the agricultural
measures and land management measures specifically for the millet crop because we've understood that this is a crop that has some potential. And next to that, we will also document the practice of farmers. How much agrochemicals are they using, for what purposes, and whether this is actually fulfilling their expectations or not.
Okay, I think we didn't receive but comments. I was happy with the first comment about rights, even though it was not addressed to the first project, it was about rights. And I was happy to hear that it was a medical doctor and not a lawyer who asked the question. I'm probably the only lawyer in the room. We have referred to ambitions and outcomes, incidents that is represented by a tree, and as we heard this morning, a fruit tree. So we will make sure with all our projects an excellent mango tree, because we have our mango tree. Mango tree, probably yeah, a symbol of fertility in many African, yeah, symbol of longevity. It's not uncommon to see mango trees that are 19 years. That even though we are at the Professor Charles said this morning, because it's that we already started, probably lead to one of the common dispute settlement mechanism where we use also indigenous people communities, what has been referred here this morning as the invisible, also participate in our future project. What is called in some the gachachas, and where we Lawyers are difficult, difficult to disrupt. You are one of the wildest dreams, but since I have the university's authorities here, why not dream about, and I share about law faculty in. Thank you.
Finally, thank you so much for that. Humphrey. You know, they haven't seen you. Can you stand up? Yes. That is Humphrey, our patient on the land changes that have happened. Of course, from the upper stream, the downstream. But particularly in the downstream, we are looking at how to reduce river sedimentation, but increase wetland discharge. So that is one of we want to provide evidence, and when we come to restoration, evidence to increase the discharge of wetlands and reduce sedimentation of the rivers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they present their work. So thank you very much, the team leaders from P1, P4, P2, and P4. Thank you so much. So I'd like to invite the other team members now from P3, P5, and P6. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll start with P3. You have slides?
Yes, I do, but they should be there. Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm John, and I'm the team leader, local team leader for Project 3, with my co-leader, Martin. So we are looking at increasing access and utilization of affordable. Pointer doesn't work. Oh yeah, it does. We all know if our energy decided to take a nap now, so we are all familiar with. We are at the moment relying mostly on non of such energies, and in our country to resolve energy that we cannot mental degradation that comes with that. Recently, I was quoted a friend of mine to buy a piece of land. He told me I got land and I'm going to buy it. And we went there and we found the owner had cut all the trees and had left it planted. So there's a lot of destruction. But we deplete the natural resources, the greenhouse gases, of course, come with that kind of destruction. But there are also health challenges to the use of those traditional for instance, but very few people would use electricity for cooking. So we have utilization is a little bit of a problem. So can we make that affordable in a way that we can also utilize it? So we have two major objectives: to upscale and or develop some of the affordable and environmentally friendly energy technologies. Those new technologies, if at all they are new, or any traditional source of energy that we can we adopt it, and can we have many people use this kind of it? What are solar? And for solar, we want to look at heating and cooking. Many people are accessing solar, but only for lighting purposes. Can we have more use for that source of solar? Our expected outcomes are that in the short and long run, solar and biomass, this is biomass, not biogas. And we are going to have a renewable energy lab here at the faculty in the building behind us here. Have a renewable energy site within the region in the area of renewable energy. More people in the use of fuel wood and charcoal. Many times we blame people for us here in town. The cutting of the trees in the villages. Those rural people use twigs and reeds. They don't use the charcoal. We are the ones who use it. So we hope to train at the moment recruited and based on his findings, looking at the socio-economic implications based on his findings, we will see how to move with the rest of the so overall we will train 3 PhD local government, the destruction of the environment, associated health challenges, and increased collaboration between our university and a number of partners who are outside there also dealing with the same problem that we are fighting with. With that, I want to say thank you.
Project 4, 5, sorry.
This is Project 5. Names Manasseh are my names, and lead on the premise is this. I have a problem with the second name, you know. And technology transfer. As it sounds, it's a transfer. Rubirizi district, Isingiro district, Mbarara district, and Mbarara city. Why do we have this project? This is a response to the increasing population pressure, the number of incubation hubs, without increasing commercialization. So in response to this challenge, this project, to the next slide, to achieve the 4 basic objectives. Bridges for our graduates always with industry and back and forth. The second objective will be to develop short courses tailored to hands-on experience in entrepreneurship and skilling. The third objective is to strengthen the business incubation clinic as well as the Center for Innovation and Technology Transfer. Currently we have them, but they are not functional, or they are not strongly functional because of scope and size. Lastly, we expect to train the youth through skilling. These youth, our target audience will be first our very own, the university students, and then we shall break to the communities, as I had mentioned earlier, the districts, in the districts. These are our expected outputs. We expect to have a vibrant and robust multidisciplinary ecosystem, which I'm happy to report that we are already onto it. In this team, we have several partners. I think we have one from StartHub, you can wave. We can have Einstein is around, you can wave. We have also tried to put up a vibrant media team to ensure that our outputs are visible in the entire region of Eastern Africa. And for that, we have identified the Smart 24 TV, and I think the crew is here. You can also wave, and they will be supported by the team here of AIT TV. So we think with that crew, our visibility among the youth will be increased. We also expect to strengthen the Business Incubation Center, and we are busy working on it. Thirdly, we should be having a strengthened Center for Innovation and Technology Transfer. We should produce graduates with industry-specific skills. And lastly, we expect to have 4 PS. Already we have 1 in the first cohort. We expect to have another one this year recruited, and then the other 2 will be in the subsequent phase. We also expect to have 4 masters completed, and lastly, we expect in the first 5 years to have trained at least 1,000 youth. That's about the project. The membership is well represented. You can move to the next slide. They are not readable, but members from the Ugandan side must please wave. I have Reni, I can see Alex, I have Nuriat, you can see we are all present and vibrant. And on the Flemish side, Liz is here. Did you move with somebody else? Or you moved alone? Oh, another time. So that's it for sub-project 5. Thank you.
Thank you. After doing our baseline survey, we found out that our infrastructure is ill-equipped in terms of ICT. The data management is a challenge, and of course, we thought it well that we would look at a project which would improve institutional and community ICT in terms of expanding the infrastructure as well as access to information and making it usable. So we are specifically looking at improving data management, and of course, when data is worked on, we get information which we can be able to utilize within the communities. Strengthening internationalization is key for us to improve collaboration. As why actually we are here, it is because of collaborations. Thematic areas that we are focusing on, we are cross-cutting, we are supporting all the projects in terms of data management, in terms of infrastructure expansion, security, as well as capacity building, internationalization, I've talked about that, and then of course making use of the data that we generate. There is a lot of data we generate throughout the university, throughout the communities, but we found gaps in its utilization. Gender and ICT is also our focus. We want to make sure that we encourage women in ICT, and that is really very critical for us. We have moved, so I will give updates concerning capacity building. Last year we rolled out capacity building short trainings via Udemy Academy. It's an online platform with very many short courses that can fit every one of us here. Annually we take on 10 individuals. It is self-study, but we monitor. If you are not progressing, we kick you out and we put on people who are serious, and that is good. So it helps us to equip faculty, postgraduate students with skills relevant for their specific areas. Concerning the internationalization thematic area, we had our international relations officer do a benchmark last year. This benchmark is important because, as you already see, our partners are here. It's part of internationalization, strengthening, actually to increase staff and student exchange, still in that line, if you see the photos right there. And also concerning internationalization, we had a workshop a few weeks back, which specifically involved most of the deans and directors and heads of departments and administrators, and still very, very important to strengthen the internationalization agenda of the university, and looking forward to developing an internationalization policy for the university, which was a gap. Concerning the data analytics thematic area, we have also moved. Just last week, we concluded a data analytics training by Professor Kuhn from Uselet University. And of course, our main focus was how can we move from just collecting data to getting insights from it and make it useful. A number of participants attended this. We also had a research seminar where different researchers, PhD and masters, presented their work and got feedback. Concerning gender and ICT thematic area, we have also moved one of our faculty, the Faculty of Computing and Informatics, Gloria Munguchi. She's an assistant lecturer in the Department of Computer Science. She has gone to Belgium for an internationalization semester at Hog School, and this is a plus for us. We expect that when she comes back, she's going to spur or to initiate gender and ICT activities within the universities around the different faculties. So she left last month on the 31st. Still on internationalization, we found out that we had gaps in language issues where our international students, our students from the central also have challenges in the hospitals speaking Runyankole with the patients. Our visitors need to get acquainted to the place, local language. And so that was our initial plan, English and only Runyankole. But last year, the cabinet of the Ugandan country made a resolution that Kiswahili be a compulsory subject within the primary and the secondary schools. So we said, let us also bring it on board for the university, and we equip the staff or the students where need be. So we have already drafted these and just waiting approval. Upcoming activities, we have visitors. We are working on a data science program. receiving a student doing internship that is from Belgium, what he talked about. We have a student coming from Belgium for about 5 months. We expect a cybersecurity training, visits, and also more trainings. We also have a boot camp in June and a gender and ICT workshop in July. These are contacts for the team leaders, Rudy here and myself, and then the whole team. I think we have the biggest team of 19 members. One of the other colleague, who is supposed to be number 20, went for further studies in South Korea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The floor is open now for questions for the, from the audience.
Okay.
Ah, yeah,
I
okay.
can use it.
That's,
Just stay here. Thank you for the good presentations. My name is Matthias from Startup. We'll be collaborating on Project 5, but my question is actually on Project 4. Having a background in climate physics and energy, I'm curious about the scope of solutions and that you're considering for the project. We have some experiences in Kampala, especially with adoption of other ways for cooking, other energy sources for cooking, etc., and the key problems behind it. And I assume or know that in the more rural areas, the infrastructure problem is even a bigger one, and that electric cooking solutions, as mentioned, at least in Kampala, are completely unrealistic. We work with a startup, for example, that has payment plan options for gas as an intermediate solution. So I'm just curious about the scope of solutions that you're considering.
Thank you.
Yeah, renewable energy. I am guilty as charged because I don't participate in the cutting of trees, but I buy charcoal every other 2 weeks. So therefore I cut trees. And this project, it is like promising heaven on earth. And when are we getting the results is the question. And I think for me that would be the quickest if it were possible. But I've also seen in this book, the very last page, I have tried to use some of these briquettes. There used to be a young man by Makanising Street in our city here in Mbarara. And every time you would go there, give me a sack. Say, and now I don't have, come back next week, and they are not there. You see, these are solutions that we need, and we need them as quickly as possible. How do you then, as a project, provide and satisfy the need that is already available? That is the question for me and to you. We want these things like yesterday.
If we can take one question. Somebody feels the need to ask a question? No? Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, thanks for the interesting question. So I have good news and I have less good news. I wouldn't call it bad news, but so with respect to the technology, so the solar cookers we already developed in a lab scale, and well, if we make use of thermal energy storage, we can charge them during the day, and then hopefully when there is no sun, we can cook. But we're still developing them. But I think, well, they are not that expensive because we are trying now different vegetable oils, which are quite cheap, not toxic, and so on. So they are not advanced like, for instance, PCM materials or things like that. So we want to keep it as simple as possible. And they are just made out of alumina, which I don't know the price of aluminum here, but we can keep them quite cheap, or we could use steel or other any metal which conducts the heat. So we are trying to get it from TRL level 4 towards 5 or 6. But indeed, there is still a lot of work to do, but we have some promising results. But in my opinion, I'm just a simple engineer. The biggest problem will be to get them to the community. And therefore, I'm counting on my colleague, Professor Kompernolle, who will try to investigate what people need and how to get the technology to the people. And this also is part of the charcoal question. So in Belgium, we also barbecue a lot. And the nice thing about barbecue is it gives extra flavor to the food. So unfortunately, if you have solar cooker, we need to find a solution for that, and that will be also very challenging. And with respect to the briquettes, we know there is some problem at the moment with especially the material where they are made of. So in this project, we also want to use other materials like food waste and things like that. So we want to take into account the different energy content of all those materials, the water content and so on. So we want to develop technologies so that we can use extra sources to be used as a briquette production. And hopefully we can there increase the capacity. But the less good news is that we are still working on that, and it can take quite some years before we actually can go in production of those systems. So I hope this answers the questions. If not, we can always discuss today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think I would want to bring our collaborator, Professor Tine, to say something. He's an engineer, I am an engineer, and when you listen to his answers, he's talking of aluminium, he's talking of vegetable oils and things like that. So we look at energy as a technology challenge. But energy is really a social problem. And I think Professor Tine would probably speak into this more elaborately. You want to say something?
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. We will indeed look into what factors are important or are key for households to adopt these new and renewable energy technologies. As regards the supply of these renewable briquettes or the biomass briquettes, we will also look into the techno-economic feasibility of producing these briquettes to understand how it could become a profitable business, such that the supply of these briquettes could increase in the future.
Okay, thank you. And maybe just to introduce some of our collaborators, I think we have Mr. Matovu here, who deals in briquettes. Is he in the room? But we are trying to work with local briquette manufacturers to try and increase, one, the energy content of the briquettes. Those of you who have used these briquettes probably know the cooking, you have a lot of soil in your sigiri and things like that, and that soil is not really energy. So how can we increase the energy content of the briquettes, for example, but also diversify the inputs, the raw materials, because most of the briquettes at the moment uses charcoal dust to make so we still need the trees to be cut, then we get its dust, then we make the briquettes. Okay. So can we try to circumvent that process so that Dr. Sebutide there and myself don't have to participate in the cutting of trees indirectly? Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce some of our partners from the National Information Technology Authority. Patrick must be somewhere, and some other colleague, yes. It's a very big body that manages technology in the country. Rudy also maybe had something to add, I don't know. Ah, good.
Yes,
Yes, hello from my side as well. I only want to give some attention to Alex. Alex, can you stand up and wave? That's our PhD student. You didn't get the opportunity yet, so voilà. Thank you.
Just passing on an announcement. On 9th this month, that is on Thursday at 2 p.m., we shall be having a guest lecture of unlocking entrepreneurial mindset. And it will be presented by none other than Liz. So please stand up. It will be at the Faculty of Interdisciplinary Studies, MCH Room 1. You're all welcome.
So I'd like to close this session, and I would like to thank all the team leaders to present so very clearly their projects, the audience for the very interesting comments and questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank Professor Gilly Cohen for taking charge of this session and making us understand the project work. So I would like to invite our partners who a little bit have the presentation from Valoris in the afternoon, after lunch. That's what I've been told. We'll have our partners make their presentation in form of a PowerPoint presentation, but also as a panel session. So let me invite Uganda Wildlife Authority representative to come in front. From Bwindi, Dr. I think you're Dr. very soon. Yeah. You deserve to be called Dr. Katana. So take over. Invite Dr. Chirunda from National Agricultural Research Organization. These are our panelists. We also invite Dr. Chirunda is the director of NARO at Mbarara Zadi. We also invite the representative of Center for Energy and Energy Conservation, if you're around. The representative of Fresh Solar, are you here? Yes, you come over. And then we have the ministry representative, Minister of Health. I think this is Dr. Sebutini. Minister of Health representative. Then National Information Technology Authority, Uganda, NITAU. Kindly okay, the representative of NITAU, I think he was here. He has moved out. Yeah, so we will also ask if anybody is here, if there's a representative. If not, StartHub Uganda, StartHub Africa, can you come over? Matthias? Yeah, Matthias. Thank you so much, Matthias, for joining us. And it's glad to meet you. You can take over. So we have a panel of partners. What is important here is to understand what they have been working on and how that fits into the new project. So these are the two questions they will struggle to answer. But I know they are able people to give us. I'll be asking you those two questions. I'm your modulator. Feel free and very comfortable. We have Meza, which the lawyer has advised us to use, Professor Matthew. So we would like to hear from you, and I know you could have made some PowerPoint presentation, although I would have loved much to have an interactive session, but I wouldn't mind the PowerPoint presentation when we invite one of the partners to say something. But tell us what you have been working on for this time you have been mandated, and how does that fit into this new project? And those are the two critical questions I would like to get answers for. So let us begin with Uganda Wildlife Authority. Mr. Katana, the microphone is with you there. I hope it is on. Yeah, very good. So let us now have his presentation as he tells us the story. And if you want to stay here, that is also fine. Okay. All right, that's Mr. Katana, the senior warden in charge of the southern sector where the project will be implemented. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome him with a huge hand. And it's about a stretch of 15 kilometers. Yeah? So he is here. Take us through what Uganda Wildlife Authority is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Protocol observed. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Katana Dixon, and I'm the warden in charge, South Sector of Bwindi, representing the Chief Warden of Bwindi Mgainga Conservation Area, who is engaged elsewhere. So let's go to the slide. Now, that is the map of Bwindi Mgainga Conservation Area, and we are surrounded by 3 districts. We have Kanungu in the north, we have Kisoro in the south, and the east is Rwanda. And maybe if I'm to take you briefly about the gazettement history, is that in 1932, Bwindi was gazetted as a forest reserve. Then in 1962, it was now, and then in 1991, it was upgraded to a protected area. And then in 1994, it was inscribed as a World Heritage Site. So that is very key in as far as Bwindi is concerned. Let's go to the next slide. So now this is a map of Rehezamienda. If I had time, I would explain to you what Rehezamienda means. It is a local dialect in Kifumbira, which means that it is to do with a date. So if I had a date on this side of the river, and the other colleague was demanding me, he would not cross. It would not be easy for him to cross and demand me. So that's why it is called Rehezamienda, but not the cross. So this, you can see how it goes around the park boundary, and the other side is from Bunyonyi, like Dr. Medad had explained. Then through, this is the boundary of Bwindi. As you see down there, it crosses, and then it goes Lake Mutanda, and then finally Congo. So that is the location of the river. Let's proceed next. So what do we do? What are we working on? We are doing eradication of invasives. This is the north of the park, Bohoma, where we have done that eradication of eucalyptus, especially the so many acres. Then we have the Nkuringo buffer zone habitat manipulation, where removal of the, that is a different one, but here the manipulation is of the trees that are 30 centimeters dBH. So the buffer zone, if I give you a brief background, this is a stretch of 12 kilometers by 350. So we have the outer buffer zone and the inner zone. The outer buffer zone is the 12 kilometer stretch by 150. And that one, we have tea plantation. There are communities. This land was bought by International Gorilla Conservation Program and given to the communities, which is co-managed by Uganda Wildlife Authority and a community organization called Nkuringo Conservation Development Foundation. And then we have another third party, which is Chigezi Highland Tea Company Limited. So the three manage or co-manage the buffer zone. Now, those who do tea planting in the outer buffer zone it is a form of livelihood improvement. And two, it is a human-wildlife conflict mechanism, because you see these gorillas, they cannot now go to the communities because they cannot go through. And if they get there, even these people who work in the tea are willing to chase them. Then the inner buffer zone, tourism, that's where we do the manipulation, so that sometimes the gorillas come in this inner buffer zone and then they feed from there. So we do also we secure boundaries. This is what we maintain regularly, and this is the kilometers 167. Let's proceed. Now this is the buffer zone I was talking about. The other side is the outer buffer zone where you see tea, and then this is the inner buffer zone. So it also helps in problem animal management, because the gorillas cannot, go through from the inner buffer zone to the tea, then the communities, it is not possible. So it has also helped us as a mechanism of human-wildlife conflict and problem animal management. Now we do...
Afande Katana, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, I request for more too. Okay. But let me go through the research and ecology monitoring. This is RDBM, this is ranger-based monitoring, where when we are doing patrol to protect the integrity of the park, so you see the maps, you will see what they do. Then SMART, data collected. SMART is a spatial monitoring and reporting tool. So let me move faster. The groups, we have about actually 23 gorilla groups in Bwindi, but 3 are under habituation. And I want to report that we registered 66 births since 2019. So whereas we're in COVID, these gorillas were producing, I don't know what, but they maintain up to date. 66 is good,